to clean up, everyone. Let's pick up our things. Clean up, everybody clean up, clean
Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is Matt Santos of The Mile High Show. You're listening to episode number 204, recorded right here in my very own garage. Now, this is a conversation with my friend Steve Tavares of the East Bay Citizen, ebcitizen.com, and the Steve Tavares is Angry podcast. Links are right there in the show notes. Check out him if you are interested at all in politics, which I am not, but he's a very funny guy and a good friend of mine from way back. He covers East Bay, as in the San Francisco East Bay, the Oakland, Berkeley, Hayward area. And he covers that for his website, ebcitizen.com, as well as the East Bay Express and various other outlets. I haven't talked to him in a while, so I wanted to reach out to him to chat anyway, so I figured I'd let the recorder run. And we talked spring cleaning. It is springtime in Arizona, so I spent the last several days clearing out my office, my garage, my yard, and Steve is spending some time clearing out his psyche and his emotions and his body. So sit back and enjoy our conversation. Again, episode 204 of the Mile High Show, where you can go to milehighshow.com and catch all our back episodes, as well as using that Amazon link. That is a way you can support this show and support the folks that we reach out and talk to. You'll click on that, the Amazon banner at milehighshow.com, and it takes you right to your Amazon or Amazon Prime login page like you would normally do, but it gives us a little kickback at the end of the month. So please check that out. Check out ebcitizen.com for Steve Tavares' rants and raves, and enjoy the show. To tell you, you're on my podcast.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So what are you doing?
What did I say? What did they say?
Special Olympics. So give me the lowdown. What are you looking at right now? What do you see from that window you're staring at?
No, that just happened a couple minutes ago. That's what I'm looking at right now. He's not there, but
where you at?
That's Pete's.
Pete's Coffee?
Yeah.
Pete's Coffee. Pete's Coffee, the unofficial sponsor of the Mile High Show.
Is it?
They are now.
But you see in there, it says Starbucks. It's like on Cheers. Remember in Cheers, there was a rival bar across the street?
Yeah. Old Time
like
Tavern.
That. Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah.
The rivals go to war.
So,
softball.
Where are you physically? Are you in
Alameda,
California? Plug away. Where? What do you got going for the East Bay Citizen? What's going on with you?
Oh, am I on live now talking?
Well, not live. I actually record it and then put it up. I don't. I'm not doing a Christian Slater pump up the volume out to my neighborhood or nothing.
Oh, am I talking to the vast expanses of cacti? Arizona?
Yes, Arizona.
Hey, is there any, if by your house or anywhere around there, are there any like cactus that looks like it's a middle finger looking off the
No, down the highway a little bit as you're heading towards Phoenix, you'll hit them on the highway.
Oh, so they exist as not photoshopped?
Oh yeah, and some of them look like very excited stick men. If you get my drift. So what's new for the Mad Portuguese with the crazy Portuguese from the East Bay? What do you got going, Steve-O?
Well, I got a lot of big news. I got a congressman running for president.
Is that Sewell?
Swalwell.
Swalwell.
Yeah.
Now,
And,
I reposted your article with him where he was kind of announcing there from
yeah.
about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. You put up, and I don't know if are you familiar with Jimmy Pardo, the comedian Jimmy
Yeah.
Pardo.
Yeah. I know the name.
His podcast, Never Not Funny. He had who did he have on? Let me pull it up, because he had a comedian from the Bay Area on. She's from all over now, but she's originally from the Bay Area. Let me pull it up. Never Not Funny. It's a great podcast. She had him on the other day, and or excuse me, Jimmy had her on the other day. Let me pull up who it was. La 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 la. Well, in the meantime, tell me what's going on with him and how you hook up with that guy.
Yeah. So he's going to have a kickoff in his district. I'll be there. I don't know when you post this, but
it'll be up tonight.
I'm gonna go over there. Yes, I'm gonna be over there and over in Dublin, which for everybody there, that's like this guy Swalwell. He's against building walls, but as you know, the Tri-Valley in Dublin is everybody has a wall around their development. But so this guy is gonna. Yeah, he's not. I'm too critical, I guess. So he runs for me. He's scared of me. So it'd be pretty cool if he would be president. And Michelle would be like, yeah, I remember this guy. He used to run away from me. He literally ran. It was the worst thing I ever seen. He ran. He wouldn't answer my question. He ran and got in his car and he sped away. and people were, it's one of those things like, oh, I'm the jerk, huh? One of those things you happen in public. Oh, I'm the jerk. And like people were looking at me like, oh my God, what did he do to him? I asked him a question. Why was he being, maybe he was being shady as a government official. And that's why, but they look at you like, oh my God, what did he do? Oh my God, it must have been that guy. Yeah, I'm the jerk. I'm the jerk. So, it's a love-hate thing. He doesn't like when I talk about his Bell's palsy face. But it's under I put it under the category of eyeballs. Like, hey man, what do you want me to do? If some guy walks into the coffee shop with a big giant foam sombrero and you don't mention it, then who's the one that's not doing the job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest part of it. There's a guy wearing a giant foam sombrero in the coffee shop. Is nobody going to mention this? So I'm like, what's up with his face? Because, okay, this is, maybe in Arizona, they like conspiracy, government conspiracy. But I've told this before. I think there's two Eric Swalwells. Just one looks normal and has a different haircut than the other. The only thing is, though, they both sound alike, so I don't know. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it normal for a person to have two different haircuts within the same week, often interchanging, right? Am I crazy? Am I crazy or what?
Maybe it's just the wind blowing the hair around, like our current 45.
No, but that's basically the same. This one is like natural, and then sometimes gel sticking up.
Maybe he has a brother like Gallagher, and they just tag team the whole campaign.
Well, there's another guy running, Julian Castro. He has a twin.
Oh, that's shady.
That sounds like a sitcom right there, right?
So evidently your boy here, Swalwell, is a big fan of Jen Kirkman. That's who it was. And he had retweeted or commented on something that she had done. And anyway, Pardo is a big fan of his. He's from the L.A. area, Pardo is, but he's been following your boy. So they had a fairly lengthy conversation about Swalwell on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and then like 2 days later, you posted that story from eastbaycitizen.com, ebcitizen.com. And
EB.
And I took it and then put it on one of the Pardo forums, and it got a little traction that way. So hopefully you got some more readers through that.
Oh,
but yeah,
so that's how that happened.
So that's how people know who you are.
It's the funny thing about Swalwell is on the website on the analytics.
Yeah.
You can see, like, if somebody Googles something and puts whatever they type in.
Yeah.
And if they then subsequently click on your story, it shows on my end. It shows like exactly what they typed in.
Yeah.
And so I'm telling you, it happened the other day, and it happens very often. I get queries that say, something like, California Congressman Swalwell gay. Is Barry Swalwell gay? All the time. I don't know what I wrote, but when it listed, that's where the one has the. But I did, because I do have experts, and I do go to the gay community, gay friends, and I just flashed the picture one time, and they all, it was unanimous that it was yes. But there's no evidence that, but I figure they should know, right?
Yeah, they got their what do they call that? What's that called? Gaydar?
Yeah, it's called expertise.
Expertise.
I go to the desk. I go to the experts, man.
Yeah.
That's where I get my info. So I don't know. There's maybe something out there. He could become an icon, maybe.
So
I'm thinking whether or not he should have came out, he'd have 7% of the vote.
He'd have got that boost. He'd have got that big boost right there. So where can folks, where other than ebcitizen.com, where you are you got your finger on the pulse of East Bay politics. Well, you know what, Bay Area politics in general.
You know it.
Where else can folks read your stuff? What's your Twitter? What's your Instagram? What's all that good stuff?
Yeah, you go big on Twitter at East Bay Citizen, and then Facebook.com/East Bay Citizen, and also have a partnership now with East Bay Express, which is the local alternative weekly newspaper. So that's a good thing, but it's a good thing,
No, that's good.
I'm moving up in the world.
Now you're pretty much running that place now, isn't that what you were telling me last time? That you pretty much got run of the office.
Yeah. We're having a Kager tomorrow, Monday.
Hey, so why is your site getting so much traction? Because you broke some stories. I was not joking when I said you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening on Bay Area politics. But between you, EB Citizen, and the East Bay Express, why is the alternative media, online and print, East Bay Express is still coming out with their hard copies that you can get on the corners? Why is it that you guys are getting so much traction? Because the Bay Area, while it's not New York, Chicago, it is a fairly big market, and Bay Area journalism throughout the decades, going back to the early and mid 20th century, has always been a powerhouse. They've always had big names, big coverage, big traction. Why is it that in the last more than a decade, that's slipping so much? Why are you getting so much traction the last 10, 15 years?
It's like, that show Walking Dead, or any zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
All the journalists have became zombies, and I was the only one left. So I'm like Rick Grimes, sheriff. I'm the only one left. In my little band of people.
Now,
but it's seriously though, it's a mystery, because this place, there's so many universities, right? There's so many both smart people, not necessarily smart, smart people, And so it's a mystery. You think there would be a lot of consumers?
Well,
but
what I remember with my time hanging around local media, doing some work for them and things. But way back when, the Sparks family had the chain there that was primarily the East Bay. That was the Daily Review, the Argus, the Times Herald. And then there was the Kaufman family, which was the Alameda Times-Star that I did some work for way back in the early 80s. And then the Tribune, which was an independent journalism mecca. They had the Tribune Tower right there downtown Oakland. All of those were independent. The Sparks chain, while large for the region, was just a very small entity when you compare to Gannett or any of the other big ones. That's not the case now. What's the face of journalism now? They're all pretty much a conglomerate, aren't they?
Yeah, it's all corporate. They kind of put together everything that you're talking about. They put it together, and then they chipped away and killed traits of it. And
now, Alameda Newspaper Group, which was the Sparks chain that got taken or got sold, however, whatever, I don't know the intricacies of that. Then they merged with the Alameda Times-Star and became ANG. Now, ANG, Alameda Newspaper Group, which was fairly large for the region right about the time I think I was leaving the area, they don't even exist anymore, do they?
Oh, was that? Well, depends on what do you mean exist?
I mean, aren't they part of now Gannett or something like that, or?
It's I don't know what the name of it. It's the one that's cannibalizing it all over.
Yeah,
Olden Media. Yeah, it's they've been going after Gannett too, and so it's a tough thing, but hey, that's a corporate media. So my argument is it's not the worst thing in the world, and eventually the people like me will figure out you can do this, and then you could make a good living. A regular living.
Nice.
You won't be rich, but when you watch TV, it's the corporate billionaires are losing their money who say that newspapers are dying.
Yeah. And when you hear the criticism of media, whatever side of the aisle on the political aisle you're on, there's always the complaint of media. Either they are the big, huge corporate bigwigs, or they're the far lefties, and they're not getting. Either side is complaining that media, the big bad media, isn't getting the story right. And a lot of that has to do with where the shareholders are and where the money comes from. But there's where you still find true media and good voices are the independents, and now what it seems like is the alternative media, whether that be the Metro down here in Phoenix or the East Bay Express where you are. Is there still a couple down in the South Bay? There used to be a few. Are they still around?
There's also called the Metro in San Jose area.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then is the Bay Guardian still around?
No, that's gone.
Gone.
That's hippie stuff.
Yeah, that's where my aunt used to work. My Aunt Susie used to work there. So,
your aunt's really?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I feel bad now talking family. About 2 hours ago, I got a Facebook message from my. Oh, this is a little PSA for my uncle Tony Soltero in Oakland. He married my mom's sister, Lupe. But Tina, my cousin Tina, sent me a message. So thoughts are. Go ahead.
Is your aunt? Is it spelled Lupe like
Lupe?
L-O-P-Y?
L-U-P-E, Guadalupe. But my cousin Tina sent me a message. My uncle Tony had some surgery this week, and they've removed a mass that they have found is lymphoma. So he is recovering from surgery. But our thoughts go out to my Uncle Tony. He is that's where my grandmother, my mom's mom, lived with the Soltero family, the cousins and my aunt and my Uncle Tony, for the bulk of her life until she passed away in '04. But
good.
Oh, go
Get
ahead.
well, Uncle Tony.
Yeah.
Get well, Uncle Tony.
I felt
Uncle
bad.
Tony also.
Yeah, I think we all do. I've had a couple of Uncle Tonys, and now my brother Tony is now the Uncle Tony, and somewhere down the line, my son Anthony, who now has decided at 8 years old last year, he decided he wants to go by Tony instead of Anthony. He will at some point be Uncle Tony. But I felt bad because my cousin Tina, sent me that message through Facebook Messenger. And because we interact on there the last few years, that's kind of how we reconnected. She's still in the East Bay there. So she asked me, she gave me the info and then said, "Hey, can you pass this on to the rest of your family? My brothers and sisters." So I attempted to copy the message to put into a text to my family, my brothers and sisters, and normally on texts or on email, you kind of hold your finger on it and it'll copy the message. I found that is not the case with Facebook Messenger. What it does is when you hold your thumb on it, it automatically pulls up the last emoji you did and automatically sends it. So I had to apologize to my cousin Tina for sending her a googly-eyed, sticking out your tongue, yellow-faced emoji as the response to, "Hey, let your family know my dad just got out of surgery." So I explained it. Yeah, it could have been that. Anyway. But what it was is a mistake. So sorry, Tina. And sorry, Uncle Tony, but I hope you feel better. And that emoji was sent in error. It was not intentional.
Good thing it wasn't eggplant and a chocolate donut.
I don't even know what that is, and I'm not going to ask.
Is your Uncle Tony colorblind? Because mine is.
To my knowledge, no. He had a very multicolored house that was it had purples and greens and blues painted on the fences. It was very very colorful and festive in the Hispanic theme.
My Uncle Tony, we were eating watermelon outside one summer, and he says, "Oh man, I remember when I was a kid growing up in Portugal, I used to eat the watermelon all the way to the blue." I'm like, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Tony. So what else you got going? You've got your podcast going. You've kind of changed the format of that. Are you back up and running on your podcast? Yeah.
It's about every week. Sometimes it's every 5 days. Sometimes it's 6. Sometimes it's 8. But I kind of just mix it up. Whatever's going on. Sometimes
What's it called? Where can people find that?
Oh, you go on iTunes, anywhere you Stitcher, anywhere you download stuff.
Yeah.
Go to Steve Tavares' Angry Podcast.
Steve Tavares is angry. Steve Tavares is angry's podcast. I like it. Nothing like an angry Portuguese throwing blue watermelon at people.
Yeah.
Well, hey, the reason why I called, there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to get you on the podcast today. Primarily, it's because...
Did I win something?
No, yes, you have won my friendship and my admiration. The primary reason... That is beautiful, isn't it? The primary reason I wanted you on the podcast is because it's Saturday night, and by about 10 p.m. Saturday night, Arizona time, I have to have a podcast launched. And I didn't have one because every Sunday... At 5 p.m. Arizona time, 8 p.m. New York time, the Mile High Show is rebroadcast on the Podcast Radio Network under podcastradionetwork.net, along with independent podcasts from around the country. So we gain a lot of out-of-area listeners that way. And I didn't have a podcast. So what I was going to do is it's springtime, Steve. So I want to get your thoughts on this. It's springtime. It's beautiful out here in Arizona right now. We had actually some regional snow fell yesterday. And about 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, we had a very heavy snow. But the last couple of weeks, it's been beautiful out here. Mid-60s, little chilly at night. And with the exception of yesterday's little dusting in the Prescott area up in the Prescott Mountains, beautiful weather out here. Today, about noon, we went out to the park, my wife and I, my wife Sandra and my son Anthony. He was out riding his bike and playing on the playground. We just got back about less than an hour ago, spending a beautiful day out in the Arizona springtime. And it got me thinking, what I have done over the last few days is I've gotten some spring cleaning done. We've been cleaning up the yard a little bit. Yeah. I went in my office. I'm recording this right now in my garage. But my office in the house, I had to really get in there and clean. So what I did, we have floor-to-ceiling bookshelves in the office, about 15, 16 shelves total if you count the ones that are up on top. And they were jam-packed with books, many of them duplicates of books I already had. I ran across... go ahead.
That's crazy. Because you got the same book, like different editions?
Well,
or you forgot?
Yeah, I had some that were hardcover that I've since gotten paperbacks. And then when we moved in here,
you're like son of a bitch. I didn't know I bought Slaughterhouse 5 8 times already.
Oddly enough, I do have Slaughterhouse 5 in a paperback, along with, what's the Monkey House one? I got a couple Vonnegut. But I ran across the Lunatic Fringe Report, which has a permanent spot on my shelf. And then when we moved into this house 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, the people that had exited out left a bunch of books in those shelves. So they had some that I had, and over the years, I've grabbed some boxes and dropped them off at the local library here, the Friends of the Chino Valley Library, where you can donate all of your unwanted books, and they will resell on their Amazon page, which you can get to through the Amazon link at milehighshow.com. See how I did that there? See how I did that ad there? Milehighshow.com. Use that Amazon link as a way to support this show and support my podcast. Yeah, pay the bills. So I've taken, 15, 20 books here and there and dropped them off. Well, yesterday I started at about 6:30 in the morning. No, excuse me, Thursday, about 6:30 in the morning, as I was getting breakfast ready for the baby Uncle Tony. And I started dusting off books and packaging them up in boxes. And I took over 3 van loads of books, no less than 400 books, I'm guessing. A bunch of them. I did keep Lunatic Fringe Report. Can you still get that, by the way, at ebcitizen.com? Is that still available?
I don't know.
The Lunatic Fringe Report.
At my mom's house the other day too.
The Lunatic Fringe Report is a compilation of columns, essays, blog posts by Steve Tavares of the East Bay Citizen.
Yeah. I will tell you, you know what's in there?
What's that?
4 years before it happened, I wrote that Barack Obama was going to be president. Yes, that's in there.
So it's your fault.
There's also an essay. Well, I didn't say what I just. God told me. I'm just not. That was an opinion or nothing. But there's also my very amazing essay about my love of mini tacos, frozen mini tacos. You know that one?
Yes.
And I wrote a letter to ConAgra, who is the maker of frozen mini tacos, and I just told them how much I loved them, and I gave them suggestions, and I said, that they should give mini tweezers so you could put your mini tomatoes and mini piece of lettuce on it, and also that it made me feel big. It made me feel like I had big hands. I had these little tacos in my hands. Just a little bit of something there. 14. I think it's like $12.95. It was. just a little bit of stuff in there. But yeah, I would wonder about. I have a question for you. In Arizona, there any? Did they want a wall?
Oh yeah, they want one on the border. They want one between Phoenix and Tucson to keep those Tucsonians out. And then the folks up here want one on the western border along the Rio Grande to keep, along the Colorado River to keep the Californians out. And then the people in Prescott want to build a complete wall around the town to keep everybody out of Prescott. I would like one around my house to keep away the tumbleweeds, because I spent this morning burning tumbleweeds, part of my spring cleaning. Hey, back to my books though. I found the Lunatic Fringe Report. I kept that. I also found Sun Tzu, The Art of War, that I borrowed from you about 15 years ago.
Oh my God!
That is on my shelf.
Is that also where my lawnmower is?
No. I have the lawnmower that I borrowed from my brother about 14 years ago.
I don't have any grass.
But I did find also Naked Lunch, which I had borrowed from our mutual friend Al Gonzalez about 25 years ago. I have lots of borrowed books that I have confiscated and I will retain.
Oh, man.
So I mentioned I was cleaning out tumbleweeds. We have one of our neighbors gave us. He was going to throw it away, so he gave it to us. One of those, chain link cyclone. I don't know, what do you call them? Chain link fence type of dog enclosures. It's about 6 feet tall, 6 feet chain link fence with a gate on it, and it's about 12 by 12 by 12. It's a square. That he was going to throw out. So we brought it to our yard and we kind of use it as a little fenced-in garden. But what I've done is I completely filled it with tumbleweeds from our yard and that have blown in the yard. And I've been checking online through the local fire district for a burn permit, because we're allowed to burn yard waste here.
But that's great.
Well, I loaded it up. And then, you got requirements you got to do. It's got to be manned. You got to have a hose standby. There's a whole list of requirements too. So I applied for the burn permit about a week and a half ago. And I check every morning, and burning has been suspended. We've had some while they've been beautiful days, we've had some pretty high winds, 40, 50 mile an hour winds out here. So this morning, at about 6:45, I logged in and checked, and burning was allowed. But we did get a little moisture overnight, so what normally goes up by just throwing a match and they burn hot within seconds, these tumbleweeds, I could not start a fire. It took me about an hour to get this fire going this morning, but I did get my fire going in that chain link enclosure, and I burned, I don't know how many square yards of tumbleweeds that is, but it's and then I hosed down there. So I've been between cleaning out my office, dropping off a ton of used books to the Friends of the Chino Valley Library, which you can rebuy by using the Amazon link at milehighshow.com as a way to support the show, and burning those tumbleweeds. Yeah. I've gotten a lot of spring cleaning done this past week. So that is, after 31 minutes of a podcast, that is the theme of this podcast, is spring cleaning. Steve, what do you do? What do you do for spring cleaning?
So that was probably the first time you got your fire burning since you had your kid.
Well, no, we burn little warming fires all the time. We burn all the time in the winter in our house. That's our only heat, is a wood burning stove in our house. That's all we have for heat.
I guess I'm being more blunt. I meant the fire in your pants.
Oh. You filthy journalist. So what do you do for spring cleaning? What do you got now? Are you still living in the same spot in Alameda where you were a few years ago when I was there? So how long have you been there?
Like 8 years.
Really? 8 years?
And they still don't. They still make you feel like you don't live here.
So what do What do you got there as far as storage? Do you got like a storage basement? Do you have a carport or a garage? Nothing?
Nothing. So actually, spring cleaning was like in end of January.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Get this, man! You gotta." And I'm cleaning the drawer with the like utensils, and I'm like, "Oh, this is where that one piece of rigatoni went one day." Yeah. And things like that. It was so it did. So we already did it, but now it subsequently is piling up again.
So the physical spring cleaning you don't have to deal with much because of your metro lifestyle, living in the big bad city, and you have apartment. What is that, condo, apartment? What do you live? What do you call that?
Yes, apartment. It's pretty small, but it's by the downtown, so it's good. Just walk down the street, go to a coffee shop, go get a bagel down the street. It would be real good if you're an alcoholic. You are living
the urban lifestyle of a city dwelling journalist, and it sounds like physical possession wise, you're pretty streamlined. Excuse me, I'm choking on my non-Pete's coffee. So that leads me to believe, and knowing you as long as I have, that you probably have some mental and emotional spring cleaning you need to do, right?
I do. Should we talk about that?
Yes, I'd like to know how you're going to dust those cobwebs away from your psyche. What is it that you, Steve Tavares of ebcitizen.com, what do you need to rid yourself of, as I ridded myself of old dusty books and tumbleweeds? What is Steve Tavares getting rid of this spring?
Well, I already dropped about 13 lbs. Start going to the gym.
Really?
I started eating better, but really just eating less. And I'm down to 181. And I got to stay right there because I don't want to. Because, I'm Portuguese, and I know a lot of Portuguese people, and a lot of Portuguese older people, they just say what they want, right?
Yeah.
And so if I go under 180, I'm going to start getting questions like, "Oh, do you have AIDS?"
Well, if they ever do a remake of Schindler's List, maybe you can get a spot on the roster.
No.
So you're eating better. You're eating healthier. What is a daily? How do you start your day? How does a svelte Steve Tavares start his day for breakfast?
Well, first of all, I wake up at 11:30 a.m.
I've been up for 5 hours by that point. 6 hours.
Let me say this though. I work until like 2:30 in the morning, so that's normal then.
I usually wrap up about 3:30. What's going on here?
There's no respect for that, even though it's the same amount of sleep hours. But that's what I do to check out what's going on.
Okay, so you wake up at the crack of 11:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? What do you make, a little kale smoothie? Do you eat some fruit, maybe some oatmeal? What do you do? What goes in Steve Tavares?
I get my Rice Krispies, and
now, who's your favorite? Is it Snap, Crackle, or Pop, or does it have to be the trio? And why?
It's the whole threesome, because you need one for each orifice.
Excuse me? I'm afraid to ask which orifice Pop gets, since that
he's the catheter. But anyway, first of all, before you go on, you've seen that commercial for catheters? It's on like cable news.
Yes.
Or like on cable. The one that goes, there's a guy, he's like on an airplane, right? He's like a pilot, right? You know what I'm talking about?
I haven't seen the pilot one. I have seen catheter commercials.
But the guy goes, it's like a guy overdubs it. He's like, this guy with sunglasses, this older guy, And they goes something like, "Hey, do you need catheters?" And the guy goes, "Oh yeah." You know that commercial?
No, I do not know that one.
Well, I always think to myself, I think they didn't say that. I don't think that he knows what's overdubbed. I think when they filmed it, they say, "Hey man, do you like big boobies in football?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And then when they overdub the guy. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute, that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah. And then he's like in the airplane, like spinning around like a airplane. I think that's what they did, and they overdosed it. You need the best catheters, and you can. I don't even know what a catheter is. Is that like jam that in?
Yeah, it goes on in. Yeah.
How do you do that?
You don't. You hire a professional for that. You don't do that.
Well,
that's one of those things where I want somebody with a degree to do it. A lot of jobs, journalism being one of them. I don't think you need a degree. Catheter insertion is that a word? See,
well.
Catheter installation is a job where you need to have a degree of some kind. Now that brings up a question. You're talking about getting healthier. You're talking about eating right and stuff. You are an independent contractor. You are self-employed. What do you do?
I want to keep talking about catheters. Now,
it hurts.
If I'm going to hire, if I'm interviewing a catheter inserter.
Installator.
And I'm going to ask the question, like, are you good at darts? You hit the bullseye, you got the job.
How are you at the game of operation? Do you do a lot of buzzers? So what is a, the cost of living obviously is significantly higher in the Bay Area than it is out here in rural Arizona, in central Arizona. What's a fella like you do for healthcare?
I'm on the government dole.
Gotcha. So the public health care.
I think.
You think so? Basically, you just make sure you take care of yourself, and you don't have to go. You don't have to go to Highland. I was at Highland Hospital one time.
That's where I go.
I was at their emergency room one time at 2-3 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night, Saturday morning, and there was a guy with a knife stuck in his head, sitting there reading a newspaper. That's what you see at Highland Hospital.
Yeah, they're like nationally acclaimed, like for like gunshot wounds. Yeah. So that's why I walk around very confidently. Yeah. I don't care if they shoot me. I got a Highland, man. They know to do the job.
I've heard of this new. I'm choking. I might need health care here in a minute. I heard of this new app that they've got for finding. It's like to find your primary care physician and things like that. It's what's a Grinder, I think is what it's called. You can find a doctor there.
Yeah.
Find a urologist.
Oh, yeah.
Got a prostate exam behind the 7-Eleven there on Indian School.
Yeah.
Guy had a really good office. It was in the back of a Buick.
But talking about healthcare, if you're in this county, the Bay Area, Alameda County,
yeah.
your listeners may be outraged, but in Alameda County, they give free healthcare to undocumented residents. Free healthcare.
Oh my goodness! Is that one of them? Their sanctuary cities I keep hearing about.
Yeah, well, we got them all over.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! So, how's it feel to be a pinko?
Well, the roads are a lot of potholes in the roads.
Well, we got that here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you got cactus doing milk fingers and
cacti
and their erections.
So what else? What else you gonna do for spring cleaning, emotional and mental spring cleaning? What else you got going?
Well, losing my hair, so I just cut it short. And people seem to be wanting to bring that up, and it really doesn't bother me at all. And I'm thinking, like, you're trying to say that as a mean thing? I don't even care. And
Yeah.
And so I'm like, they're putting baggage on me because, frankly, it's the most wonderful thing ever, man. You know what I'm saying?
I have not had to purchase a comb, a brush, or shampoo in about 10 years.
It's just
11
saves
years.
you so much time. Saves you so much time.
I personally,
your hair doesn't get messed up.
I personally do not enjoy having a shaved head. I wish I didn't, but I've mentioned this before. About 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, I started breaking out, and I thought on my head, on my scalp, and I assumed it was hair care products, shampoo, laundry detergent, something. The only thing that would take care of these blisters growing on my head is when I shaved my head one night just out of frustration, and they went away. And now, if I go longer than 3 or 4 days without shaving my head, these little blisters, these little hives come back, and they get hot to the touch. And after a few days, they bleed. So I look like stigmata or something. I don't know but I can't grow my hair anymore. Now I'm fairly certain it's all psychological because like this morning, I had not shaved my head since Thursday. And this morning it was starting to burn and itch, but I couldn't find any of the hives as soon as I shaved my head after burning my tumbleweeds. It stopped burning and itching. So I think it's now a psychological issue. But having said that, I have more gray stubble, than I do black stubble on my head now. So I'm not sure that I want to grow it out, even if I could. But for all the cons against me not wanting to shave my head and not liking how I look with a shaved head, it is much easier. I have to admit, it is much easier. So
you do look intimidating, though.
No, I've got.
If you wanted to, if you needed to be.
I have a bit, and I've told you about. I started doing a little more stand up in the past year and a half, 2 years, hitting some open mics and things. I do have a routine about going to a party and being the only one that wasn't aware it was a costume party and being a little disappointed until I won first place for my spot-on Uncle Fester, dressed exactly the way I am right now. So I am getting a little mileage out of my bald head, So now your cousin Bobby had been shaving his head for quite a while. Is he still around, Bobby? Didn't he work at Albertsons or something?
Yeah, but his was vanity because he was like 18 and balding, so he had to do something about that.
How's he doing?
Just normal.
Is he still in the Bay Area?
I think a lot of alcoholism due to marriage, but that's normal, right? Yeah.
So had you stuck it out, how many years would you have been married now?
Well, -10.
Well, when did you get married? What year was that?
2000. That's you're not supposed to talk about that person.
Why? We trade messages back and forth on social media every once in a while.
Only God recognizes that.
What was that, like 06? 06, 07?
Yeah, 06.
Yeah.
06.
So what's your current status? You living in sin?
Yeah, sinful.
Sinning on a regular basis, are you?
Yeah. I prefer sugar mama.
Now, how long have you been there? What, 8, 9 years now?
Mm-hmm.
No plans on putting a ring on that, or what? Making it official?
I can't talk about You might have family in New York listening to this on the podcast network, and it might blow the whole thing. But go back to the hair. There's no alternative, so you might as well, right? I mean, Brad
struck a sore chord with the East Bay Citizen, huh?
I mean, might as well, right? 'Cause nobody's like lining up right now.
All right, so you're shaving your head to compensate for the baldness, but you're embracing the look, the feel, and the convenience of not having to brush, comb, shampoo, or groom a head of hair. So
it's not insignificant the amount of time that you save every year. That's what I'm saying. It's very handy. And then you think about it. How many times your hair's a little longer? You're going somewhere and you have the window down and it kind of blows it out, and you got to fix it up. It may not look right. All that worrying, man. You don't have to worry about nothing, man. It's just so free. It's just the greatest thing ever.
So spring
it would be like if we could wear no clothes.
Hey now.
But we can't do that.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Well, actually, this lady out here, I'm looking at out the window is, but it's pretty close to it.
Snap a picture of that, will you? So your spring cleaning, your emotional spring cleaning, is primarily centered around your physique, getting in shape, eating better, taking better care of yourself. And you've cleaned out the hair from the top of your head. What about things you feel as though 2019, as we enter in the spring of 2019, coming up to the second decade of the Y2K era, the millennial era? What are some things that you feel you can rid yourself of? Honestly, for me, just in the last few months, I've been really noticing the need to go through my Facebook and my social media accounts and really just kind of clean house on some of the follows and some of the things that I waste my time looking through. What about you? What are some things that you think you can get rid of in your life? Practices, apps, habits that you can get rid of that is going to streamline you entering into the second decade here. Yeah.
Well, like you say, that a lot of people say that, I got to clear out people on my social media. Social media, that ain't real. I say what you're really saying, you should just cut to the chase and cut out your family. Just cut them out.
We did that years ago.
Get rid of them. Get rid of that man who's crazy. And,
now you sound like my family.
and the cousin that can't read, that tries to act like he knows how to use a computer.
Now I find myself with social media. I'm not a good person on social media. When I say that, I mean I don't use it what it's intended to do. What I typically do, I'm on social media a lot for work, for the podcast, for my photo business, for the different accounts I run for some of my clients. I'm on there a lot, but all I'm really doing is posting. I don't really look through the feed and like and share things. I'm kind of anti-social on social media, is where I just throw stuff out there.
No,
but
it's just normal.
Nah, there's a lot of people
will takers.
I guess I'm a taker or a giver. What am I?
You're a giver. You're a giver. That's what she said.
Yeah, I don't interact much other than posting things that I need to do, whether it's press releases for clients or like this show. I'll put up a post when I put this show up, but I don't look at my wall and go through and like and share and comment on things because I just don't have time.
Yeah, nobody really cares about that. I'll tell you, I looked on Facebook this morning, And really the only thing I interacted with was this video that somebody put of college halftime at a college basketball game where they put it was kids, infants. It was like a race on the court, and then the parents were on one side. Come here, which kid would win?
Yeah,
and it was kind of hilarious. It was like kind of like just one looked like they were ahead, and then they started walking back and forward, and so words are too smart for people. You got to put videos, man. Put a video of a cat. So what I'm trying to say is the world is dumb. You said what you said earlier 30 minutes ago. What's wrong with journalism? Well, there you go. Too many words.
Too many words.
Too many words.
Well, hey, we're about at that time, man. You helped me put out a podcast this week. Tell everybody again where they can find out about Steve Tavares and what you got going on. Your website, your social media that you troll cat videos on, and your podcast. Where can folks find out about you?
And also on my match.com. No, just kidding. That's for later.
That's a whole nother podcast.
It's Frank the Tank. Frank the Tank. ebcitizen.com. It's everything. And, you may not in Arizona, everywhere else don't care about the East Bay Area, but you care about Eric Swalwell running for president.
Yeah.
And you find a real scoop on that. And if you can care, he's got 3 votes, which is about point 0.0000001% of the polls. And also I'm on Twitter, East Bay Citizen, Facebook, East Bay Citizen.
And what about the podcast?
And the podcast everywhere. Steve Tavares' Angry Podcast. And I just want one last final thing for people in Arizona, because like the other day, you stepped on the punchline. But Arizona, you don't need a southern wall. You don't need a border for this reason. Central Americans and Mexicans, in terms of women, are the hottest women in the world. These are not the people. You need to let them in. You need to let them in. If Finland was your border, then lock them out, put a wall. You know what I mean? If Luxembourg is your border, keep those guys out. You know what I'm saying? Greek, keep them out. Yeah, I mean that's like, holy smokes, Sofia Vergara. You want to keep her out? Make America sexy. Yes.
Steve Tavares is Angry, wherever you find podcasts. ebcitizen.com for all of you California transplants. Most of them around here are from the south end of the state, but there are quite a few from the northern and central areas of California that have transplanted here to Arizona, and everybody else listening around the world. You want to know what's happening over on the left coast? Follow Steve Tavares at ebcitizen.com, and again, his podcast, Steve Tavares is Angry. Find out what he's doing to spring clean his mind and his soul and his psyche by listening to his podcast. Well, thanks, Steve.